Grounded just came out into early access, and this is the latest game from Obsidian, who are most famous for their kind of RPG games, classic RPGs like Pillars of Eternity, but then they also did Fallout New Vegas, and most recently The Outer Worlds, which is kind of like a Bethesda-style RPG, but they did it, it's their own property and stuff like that. But now they've been acquired by Microsoft, and this is the first thing they've put out, like, wholly original from them since they've been acquired. And it is quite a big departure. It's a survival game with a pretty cool aesthetic. You're basically a shrunk-down kid, think like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and you're navigating your backyard. The trees are big, tall tufts of grass. There's giant baseballs, a big rake you can climb on, and the scale that they use is really cool. You feel really small compared to even things like ants and ladybugs and the vicious spiders that are out there. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Leigh, what are your thoughts on it so far that you've been playing it?
As somebody that doesn't really like survival game, like scrounging sims, let's call them, I quite liked this one. As an early access game, although there's like brutal elements to it, there's enough within it that's kind of tough but decent entry level to get into to enjoy. It's not quite too brutal. You don't have to go far for any sort of resource within any sort of distance. There was a point actually where, because you have to harvest with weapons, stuff like grass and stuff like that, and I couldn't find a stalk. I needed a stalk, and they're like, "Where the hell am I going to find a stalk?" And you find out it's a dandelion. Why can't I see a dandelion? Probably because it's one of the highest things in the game. It's massive type thing, and I just didn't think to look. And once you look and you're like, right, I'm in. I don't need to be told where it is. I understand how this game works, and I like that. It's very it doesn't hold your hand too much.
And it's relatable because it's like all things you're used to. It's just now you're tiny and having to walk around. Like it makes sense that you'd have to, you'd use the shell from an acorn in order to make some armor or something like that.
Yeah, it makes simple tasks like, find out why this wire isn't making this beam work, and it's literally just a piece of plastic, like covered, I guess copper wire, and that turns into an adventure in itself. And simple stuff like that is they really use the Shrunk concept really well in this.
Yeah, they that particular part of it, that's like part of their story, which isn't done yet. It kind of ends right now because it's in, like we said, it's in early access, so it's not a completely finished game. But the story has definitely got an interesting vibe to it. Like you find this technology in the middle of the field, in the middle of the grass, and you kind of go on to solve the mystery of what is this? Why is this here? Who built it? And it kind of brings you into, it mostly just kind of brings you around the yard. Like it says, you figured this out, now go here and find out what's here and stuff like that. And, along the way you find new resources, which is probably the real reason why the quest is there, but it's also an intriguing quest to kind of flesh out the world, because the story is definitely alluding to something a little bit more than this is just your normal everyday backyard. Like you said, there are laser beams, there are there's like a secret lab underneath a oak tree. It's interesting. It's like it suggests that there's a bigger world than what is initially presented. Let's talk about that arachnophobia mode.
Right. The one that I whacked right up to the top, you mean?
Yeah, so I think there's been some games that have had these kinds of things for people who are afraid of spiders to kind of um, make the spider something else so they can deal with it. And this one is you basically if you slide the arachnophobia mode slider all the way up, it turns into like what did you say like a couple of jelly beans.
Yeah, yeah,
The spiders turn into like yeah these two jelly beans stuck together with some eyes, but they're still just as dangerous. The spiders are definitely the most dangerous thing in the game, at least
yeah.
so far. And the way they move, they didn't like change any of the animations, so like they still move like they're fast and have the legs, but they're just kind of like floating around
Mm.
as two jelly beans or two marshmallows. It's
Yeah.
pretty funny.
Funny in daylight until you see a massive, gigantic, darkened jelly bean try to devour you at midnight, and it doesn't matter whether you got acrophobia on or not. Like
Yeah,
I've had dreams like this. This is not cool. uh,
yeah,
but
yeah. I think the game's pretty good at where it is. It needs some definitely needs some balancing in terms of the enemies because I think the combat and the enemies that you fight are at least right now really powerful compared to yourself. And I think that's more to kind of like keep you from going too far out because there just isn't like the game isn't finished, so they don't want you to keep wandering out too far. So they put the tough enemies out there to kind of dissuade you from doing that. Um, and yeah, like the survival mechanics aren't too harsh.
yeah,
Uh, you just need to worry about hunger and water, and like you said before, the most of the resources are pretty plentiful. Um,
mm,
and like early on, I had a problem finding clean water. Like you can drink water just off the ground, but it kind of makes you sick, and it'll take a big chunk out of your food meter. Um, but then I noticed if you look up, you know, the game just looks really cool. Look, like, it really goes with the whole your tiny aesthetic, and you know the trees. What would normally be trees are actually blades of grass, and just like regular grass, dew kind of collects on some of the blades, and you can see like up and if you look up, you can see the dew collecting on the blades, and if you throw something up there, you can knock the dew down, and that's considered clean water. So that's just kind of like a cool thing that um, makes you like if you're thinking about water, the last place you'd think to do, the last thing you think you'd do is look up, right?
mm,
Um, and you know, it just kind of helps you gain a perspective on the world. Like you're not just going to be, you know, looking at the horizon or picking stuff up off the ground. There's also stuff up that you're going to need to be paying attention to. Um,
mm. It's quite visually with the environments and the harvesting stuff you have to during the daytime. It's quite visually distinctive.
yeah,
The difference between dry grass and which are two different resources and like live grass
yeah,
is good, which means you really don't want to be messing around at night because
no,
absolutely I don't want you to know the difference between it. So it's a real risk if you're caught out scavenging stuff to make an emergency hut so you
yeah,
don't get hit by jelly bean spiders.
yeah,
Good luck trying to find some dry grass to make the walls. And that's not a fault with the game. They want that risk there.
yeah.
I feel that's kind of yeah,
It definitely gets more difficult at night, and it gets very dark as well. So like you need to have torches and stuff like that. Like I went into a cave and it was pitch black. If I didn't have a torch, I couldn't see anything in front of me. So it's not afraid to kind of uh, you know challenge you in that respect too. Um,
and I'm not a person for these games. I've got no shame. I'll talk about it. I decided I was going to keep it separates difficulty and skill levels, so you can kind of have your easy, medium, and hard. I went for the medium. Like we'll
mhm.
stick to that, then that'll be fine. But you can tinker with like stuff in within that. Like you can take down the like the food consumption rate without affecting the difficulty level, which I
Yeah.
really like. That's really cool. I like that I can do that because it means I'm not kind of dragging the whole game down just to make it a little bit easier. So
Yeah.
I like that you can make some things a little less tough without dragging the whole thing back.
Yeah,
I
it
think that's
seems to be they seem to be open to making it, the game you want to play. It's not necessarily them saying this is how it's supposed to be played and that's it, which is good. Because that like you, I like to be able to tweak some of that kind of stuff so it's not as harsh in some departments, but still puts up a challenge in certain areas. Yeah, and like I said, what's that?
Also multiple death drops. I quite like as well. I can be killed, not like a Dark Souls. If you miss the loot you dropped when you last died, tough shit. You've lost that. This I have died many times by, again, jelly bean spiders, and I've been able to leave several bags of equipment behind that I could pick up. That
Right.
also doesn't punish you, but still good luck getting to it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of, you're going to be rewarded for that. It's not a panic. It's more of a kind of
Yeah, I wonder
ease forward.
if that's something that changes on the higher difficulties too.
Maybe
Yeah.
I'm on medium. I'd imagine that would come off on tough. I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to try that. Except I don't want to because I'm scared.
Don't want to lose all your stuff.
I don't want to die by a big spider.
Yeah, and of course we didn't mention this, but this is so I know I've been playing it single player, but it is a 4-player co-op game, so you can get your friends in there, and I imagine that'll make combat easier, and scrounging for resources and then building up a base. I don't know how like the world state is going to go. Like if you go and you build a base, does that just stay on the whoever's hosting the game? Are they the only one that has that save game, or if people are going to be able to take that with them? I'm not sure how that works or how
Look
that
into
will
that
work.
with a stream or something.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to try and get a stream of it going, so maybe we can do that sometime soon. Because I think it would be cool to just get out there and explore.
Play around with it, see how playable it is at this level.
Yeah,
At this kind of state of development.
yeah, and they said they're
Which
gonna.
is in a really good shape. Let's be honest, it's in a really good shape for something that's been out a couple of weeks.
Yeah, the Xbox version seems to be pretty good. On PC, I'm playing on the Windows Store version. I did have it crash a few times.
Oh,
Just like really random stuff, like I was roasting some gnat on a roasting on a campfire, and when I went to grab it off of the campfire, it immediately crashed. I don't know.
oh, wow.
So yeah, there is some there's a little bit of stability problems on the PC, but it looks really great on PC and runs really great. So hopefully they sort that out. And the Xbox version runs and looks good too. Yeah, so they said they're going to be trying to do monthly big updates. So I guess the first one is going to be coming at sometime near the end of August. So we'll see what they add in with that. But yeah, that's Grounded, and that is also on Xbox Game Pass for PC and Xbox, and it's also on Steam. So if you want to play that, if you want to just buy it outright on Steam, you can do that. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to see more. Check out voxelvoice.com for all of our great content, and consider supporting us on Patreon to keep our content ad-free and independent.